Hey, welcome to Thrift Store Vinyl Finds 41. Yes, this is the third video I'm making in one session here, and this one I'm calling the full spectrum of art. What do I mean of that? I mean, only people I think who look at thrift stores records come across the full spectrum of music genres to discover. And even now it's still relatively inexpensive to find records. Although I gotta tell you, the days of back in the days, a few years ago, for me personally, the days of finding where a thrift store would sell 3 records for $1, that disappeared years ago. And a lot of my, well, I would say most, but a lot of my collection was from that era up until maybe 10 years ago. Say from the late 1980s to about 10 years to about the year 2000. That was, to me, that was the golden era of getting thrift store records for cheap, because that was the era when everybody was like buying CDs, okay? And then now you can buy CDs, but it's like the CD era was music genres from, say, from like the early 80s to through the 90s, and all those kind of like a mediocre period, I think, in pop music history, unfortunately. But, I could be wrong. But why I say the full spectrum, not only does it relate to the music buyer, there's also the music producer. Now things are so narrow. It's like the recording, you probably know, it's the recording business now. They don't give any artist, if the artist doesn't hit and make a following right away, they don't usually get a second chance. They don't get a second, record or whatever. And even now, there's still very few artists who have creative control over their careers. The only ones maybe the guys like Steve Winwood, who can go years without making a record, and he has a following. He can make something in his style he wants. Probably the biggest one I know of is Neil Young. He can still make a record, and he's still going to sell maybe a $500,000 or $250,000 guaranteed, because he's Neil Young. People are loyal. Although I gotta admit, a few years ago when he what was that CD he released? I can't remember now. Something pill or whatever. But I played it once. I thought, oh, this is a waste, But I've always followed guys like Neil Young or whatever since the 70s. But that's the bad thing. Very few artists now can like call the shots, and the record companies say, okay, I'll release that, because they have a following. And one of the few now I think that has that is like Taylor Swift, and I have no real much interest in Taylor Swift. I kind of know her career a little bit, but you gotta admire Taylor Swift, because she built a following, and she decided to change styles. And record companies, they hate that. They hate people who, they want things to be predictable. All they're interested in, if they sell records, they don't care what's on that record, just as long as someone buys it. And now that a lot of people don't even buy records, they consume their music by downloads or something. It's even more critical that they want to pigeonhole. They've always been this way, record companies. They always want to pigeonhole an artist and hook them up to a certain demographic or whatever. But the records I'm going to show in here, they're like all different genres, and that's what I would encourage anybody, any younger person. That's the nice thing about buying stuff at thrift stores. Yeah, you get a lot of mediocre stuff or stuff you may not be interested in, but you know, even if you're mildly interested in something and you're first starting to buy records, you know, you want to have something to play, and you can still, like, you know, $1 is not that much money, and you know, you even have played a couple times or whatever, and you discover different styles that you may not know exists or whatever, because the media services, like streaming services, all these things you can get um, on your phone. And I used to listen to some of these music channels or whatever, streaming music channels will have all these different genres, but even then they're not going to play, you know, stuff really obscure. Although there was one I remember, I can't remember the actual name of the channel anyway. I think it was, oh, I can't even think of it now. I haven't listened to it in a while, because I used to listen to it on my job when they used to let us use our phones at work to listen to something, not talk on the phones. But that's the beauty of going to thrift stores and combing through the records. You can, even if you're mildly interested in something, you can. It's not that much of a monetary investment to find records. So I only have a few records left here to show, and then out of all these, the last 2 videos I made here, I have to file all those records. It's gonna take a while to shoehorn them into my shelves. But anyway, like I said, I got stuff all over the place as far as genres here. First thing I'm going to show is this Ray Charles. It's kind of an analogy of him. And you know, Ray Charles was one of the earliest guys who like went through all different genres. He was like he was jazz, he was R&B, he was pop, he was rock and roll, he was even country. I mean, this guy, he could do any genre almost, and he was like successful and cut across, you know, all demographics like that. So that's anybody should have at least maybe a few Ray Charles records, I think. I mean, he was such a significant artist there. Now here's something completely different. I mean, I'm kind of I talked in, I think one of my last videos about, I'm kind of like a completist as far as groups or even members of groups or whatever. And like, probably one of my favorite American groups of the 60s and 70s was Jefferson Airplane. So I have almost every Jefferson Airplane. I have Jefferson Starship, and even solo records or whatever. Hot Tuna is another one. I have Hot Tuna. You know, Grace Slick made solo records. I found this one, Welcome to the Wrecking Ball. And I haven't played this yet, but I said, well, I love Jefferson Airplane and Starship, so I just had to get Grace Slick there. Now here's a very cool find too, another vintage find. I found this at an antique mall in my town. I never come across this ever. I never come across this album ever at a thrift store, but I found the album. I found the album Wild Thing by the Troggs. Very cool record. It's in excellent condition. I can't remember what I paid for it. I don't think I paid more than maybe $5-6 for it, but yeah, that very cool find there, the Troggs. And I'm not as much as I used to be, but when I was a very young kid, my dad kind of had a thing for Spanish flamenco guitar music or whatever. So, and I remember as a kid playing, he had like some Carlos Montoya record, and a couple other records by other artists who played that style. But I found this one. Incredible Carlos Montoya concert or whatever. Haven't played it yet. I'll eventually get around to playing it. In case something completely different, just like Monty Python would say. Found this Pete Townsend. I've heard that the Who or Pete and I can't even think of the lead singer's name. What's his name? You know, I'm at a loss for it. But they released a new record as the Who or whatever, so I might be interested in checking that out. But this is White City. I think I played this once. I can't remember now. But very cool find there. Looking out for like some of these old hard to find things here. I found like Ike and Tina Turner. I have some other stuff by them here, and I just noticed this just now. There's some writing on the back. I don't know what that is there. Someone wrote some stuff there in the back. Huh. That's a funny thing. Sometimes people they'll have records and they'll write things and on it, and then it's like, or they'll write. That's another one of my pet peeves, that people will write like their name on the jacket, and they'll write their name on the label on the actual disc, like they're never going to get rid of it, and yet they somehow they decide to get rid of it, right? It's like that kind of hurts the value. You know, I never understood that. Here's another one. Always on the lookout for older Everly Brothers on the original label. This was a pre-Warner Brothers, Everly Brothers, fabulous style of the Everly Brothers on Cadence, which I believe was their original label. So that's a very cool find there. Little country find here. Another one with Buck Owens. Buck Owens and the Buckaroos here. I haven't really played much of his stuff. I mean, I have enough of his records. I don't know. I'll probably explore this stuff, and if I crazy about it, maybe I'll keep a few and give away some of the other ones. I don't know. This next record might be a replacement copy. I already had this Neil Diamond there, and main reason why I bought this one is it's got that top song there, Holly Holy. I've always really liked that track. In fact, I remember when that was played on the radio in the early top 40 AM radio in the early 70s. I always liked it. So can't have a, helps to have a good clean copy of something like that. Here's another one back in country here, Porter Wagoner. Of course, Dolly Parton, she was like his protege there, and until she decided, finally to go out on her own. So that's a nice find there. Here's the early Johnny Rivers Discotheque de Go-Go there. Probably from the mid-60s there. And I thought I had this record. I thought I might have bought this new a long time ago. I don't know, maybe I lost it or whatever, but it's a moody. Like I said, I'm kind of a completist with certain groups, so I found this copy. And I found this at the antique shop for $5.95. The Moody Blues Caught Live +5. It's a good copy. It's probably a early record that you don't come across. It's a vintage. Probably has some collectible value. I don't know how much, but the Kingsmen, Volume 2. So it's like after Louie Louie. In fact, why don't we look at it right now? See what it looks like. It's got the original picture sleeve here, Wand and Scepter. Yeah. Looking at it, it does have some looks like superficial wear and scratches or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see how it sounds. And we got two more. In the last video, I think I showed you Electric Warrior, or maybe the one before, Electric Warrior T-Rex. Here's another T-Rex, Light of Love, on Casablanca. And here's another, I always talk about artists who were on Mercury Records. Mercury Records was notorious for they didn't maintain catalogs of their artists. They would just do an initial run, and then when the sales dropped off, I think they just stopped supporting the act or whatever. And this was a group, they had a few pop hits in the mid 60s, late 60s. It was Spanky and Our Game. I've never come across this record until I found this one. This is although this is a kind of compilation, Spanky's greatest hit or hits there. So that's a cool find there. So that was basically it out of all these records that I had laying around that I never shown, or now I can spend probably half the day figuring out where they're supposed to go in my shelves, to file them away. But that's the nice thing, like I said, in closing, that's the nice thing about combing the thrift stores. You can discover things still, even now. I think it's still the cheapest way to discover new music or explore new music. I mean, you can go on Spotify but you don't really know what's there. You don't know what to look for, unless you already know an artist. Then you have to enter in that search box and find them. But if you don't know what's out there, just go. I gotta admit, you're gonna have to comb through a lot of crap. If I had a dollar every time I came across Herb Alpert in the Tijuana Brass, or Montoya, or the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, or what's his name? I can't think. So many of these ones that it's like, this stuff is never gonna sell. They should hire me as some kind of a consultant. I would go to the back room at Goodwill or whatever, say, nah, don't even bother putting this stuff out. They could just recycle it, melt it down into, or turn it into vinyl pellets if they can do that, recycle it, and then make some records that people really want to buy. New records, if they can recycle old vinyl records into new vinyl to press into new records. You know what I'm saying? But what are you gonna do? I've invested many years and probably thousands of visits to thrift stores, and I've gotten to the point where I pretty much got everything I think I'll ever want. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna not make videos. I got so many ideas for. In fact, years ago on this channel, I said when I thought that the finds were thinning out to nothing, and then they came up again, I said I'm gonna keep making vinyl videos about what I already have into different topics. Like one of them I'll probably think about making not in the near future. I have some really bizarre records. I mean, why would someone put this kind of stuff on a record? And I got some really strange records. Stuff that it might even be offensive to some of you. I don't know, but it's just strange. If someone will record something and back in the days, press it, put it on a record, someone will buy it. Someone ended up buying it. So, but like I said, that's the neat thing about vinyl. There's so many different genres that were made, put onto records, and that somehow they found an audience, and they're still finding an audience now. So with that, I'll say goodbye, and like I said, another 20-minute video here. Say goodbye, and I hope you check in back here real soon. Bye for now.